Jiraiya versus Orochimaru is one of the most controversial versus battle discussions in the Naruto community. They're both Kage level shinobi and are very close in terms of strength. I think that people let their character biases get in the way of who they think would win, but there will be none of that coming from me. For this fight, I will use the Orochimaru that fought Four-tailed Naruto because we know the most about him. This is the only version of him where we actually see him directly fight someone and give it his all. As for Jiraiya, we'll do one round without Sage Mode and one round with it. The fight will take place in an open field, and without further ado, let's talk about who would win. First thing I need to debunk is Itachi and Kisame supposedly saying that Jiraiya is stronger than both of them. I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but this has been debunked, so I'll explain. When Kisame and Itachi were trying to capture Naruto, Kisame doubts if they can beat Jiraiya. Kisame doesn't know much about Jiraiya, so he's just making a guess here, since he's supposed to be one of the best from Konoha. We know that Itachi doesn't want to kill any Leaf Shinobi, if possible, so that's why he chooses to lure away Jiraiya from Naruto. Itachi doesn't directly agree with Kisame, because then Kisame would have challenged Jiraiya directly. The point is, Itachi doesn't really say Jiraiya is stronger, and also, do you really think Jiraiya can beat Itachi and Kisame? Really think on that one, because he wouldn't stand a chance. So you can't use the argument that Jiraiya is better than Itachi and Itachi is better than Orochimaru. Moving on from that, I'd like to talk about the Sannin showdown. Orochimaru was armless here, and Jiraiya was drugged, so their handicaps are far too great to get too much valuable information from this fight. There is one thing we can gather from this fight though. Manda is a superior summon to Gamabunta. Manda 2v'd1 Katsuyu and Gamabunta and did well. He's significantly larger than Gamabunta and would beat him in a one-on-one. Jiraiya and Gamabunta tried to use his combo attack to hurt him, and he just smolted his skin, and then he attacked Gamabunta from underground. It really looked like Manda was going to eat Gamabunta before Tsunade defeated him. The only thing we can gather from this fight is that Manda would defeat Gamabunta. Moving on from that, we can talk about how they stack up against Four-tailed Naruto. We saw Orochimaru actually fight him, and Jiraiya fought him off screen. When talking about Four-tailed Naruto, Jiraiya revealed that he had a giant scar from the battle, but that's all we really know about it. We don't know if Jiraiya straight defeated Naruto or suppressed his chakra in some way. What we can gather from this though is that Jiraiya was able to tank through a swipe from the Four-tailed Naruto, while Orochimaru can't. When Four-tailed Naruto got a clean swipe at Orochimaru, he ripped him in half. He also took off one of his arms earlier in the battle, but Orochimaru can recover from this. He can frequently use Oral Rebirth to create a new and restored version of himself, and he can reconnect his torso using snakes. It's gross, but it's very hard to deal with, especially for Jiraiya. So we've laid out all of the preface, and now we can talk about how they would match up base to base. Speed-wise, there isn't a significant difference. They both took on Four-tailed Naruto and got hit hard once. As for Taijutsu, I think I'll give the edge to Orochimaru. Orochimaru has his sword of Kusanagi, and Jiraiya doesn't have a sword. It would be incredibly difficult for him to win in a Taijutsu battle, so let's move on to Ninjutsu. People like to talk about how Orochimaru has a vast jutsu arsenal, but all he ever really does is use snakes, stretch his neck, and regurgitate things. Orochimaru can release a sea of snakes out of his mouth, but Jiraiya can use enough fire style to defeat all of them, I believe. Orochimaru could also stretch his neck out to give Jiraiya a curse mark, but Jiraiya has used his hair in the past to block that. If Orochimaru were to do this though, it'd be an instant win. Orochimaru can also stretch his neck underground and then surprise Jiraiya with the Sword of Kusanagi. I really doubt that his hair could block this, but he can move out of the way if he catches on. If he sees Orochimaru's head stuck in the ground, he'd be on his toes, and remember, his neck works like elastic. Basically, it's up to Jiraiya to catch on, because otherwise I think Orochimaru would kill him with this method. Now let's talk about Jiraiya's ninjutsu though. He can use very large amounts of oil and fire, but Orochimaru's Rashomon gates would be able to block it. Jiraiya can also use the Rasengan, but even if this hit Orochimaru, he could use Oral Rebirth to regenerate. We really don't know how powerful Jiraiya's Rasengan is, but we can compare it to a few things. Naruto's Rasengan destroyed the Diva Path, but I'm not sure if the Diva Path's endurance can compare to Orochimaru's endurance. Naruto's Rasen Shuriken also didn't even kill Kakuzu immediately. It's just not clear if Orochimaru would die from a Rasengan, but I lean towards that it wouldn't. Let's move on to their summonings though. So as I said earlier, Manda is larger and superior to Gamabunta. He can catch a sword in his mouth and has the ability to swallow him. Eventually I see Manda wrapping around Gamabunta and then swallowing him. Gamabunta can reverse summon himself out of there, but at that point Jiraiya is pretty screwed. So we looked at every element of the fight, and this is what we've got. Jiraiya might be able to defeat Orochimaru with the Rasengan, but it's unclear. Orochimaru might be able to surprise kill Jiraiya from under the ground, but it's unclear. Manda can quite clearly defeat Gamabunta, and this is the only clear superiority of the matchup. They both counter each other well, but Manda is the prevailing X factor in this fight. Jiraiya can't take on Manda and Orochimaru by himself in base, So when it comes to who would win base to base, Orochimaru takes the win with high difficulty. Let's talk about if Jiraiya started off in Sage Mode now. If Jiraiya had planned to fight Orochimaru, I see him starting in Sage Mode, but if it wasn't planned, I don't think Orochimaru would let him activate Sage Mode. Pain let him do it because he didn't know what was going on, but Orochimaru knows how Sage Mode works and would catch on. Jiraiya couldn't stall long enough with no hands. So basically with no prep time, Orochimaru wins, but what about with prep time? Taijutsu wise, I see Jiraiya being superior actually. With an increased strength and speed, I don't think Orochimaru will be able to keep up since they were almost even before. One thing that changes about their ninjutsu battle is that Jiraiya can use a much larger Rasengan now. I'm confident this Rasengan would turn Orochimaru into paste. Orochimaru also can surprise Jiraiya out of the ground because Sage Mode allows you to sense danger coming from any direction. As for their summonings, I actually see Jiraiya taking this one. Tsunade was able to pin Manda with Gamabunta's sword, and now that Jiraiya has the strength buff, he can do the same. If Gamabunta is in a sticky situation, Jiraiya could use his sword or Massive Rasengan to help him out. Another thing Jiraiya could do is summon a swamp to either sink or significantly slow down Manda. He did this against a smaller snake summon, but with Sage Mode granting him more chakra, he can make an even larger swamp. The swamp would be large enough to at least slow down Manda or even sink him. With a slowed down Manda, Gamabunta could use his sword to cut off his head. Jiraiya also has Ma and Pa, who can use an auditory genjutsu powerful enough to paralyze 3 passive pain. It takes a while for it to take effect, and Orochimaru could potentially use a snake summon so that they could maybe help each other resist the genjutsu. I'm not sure if this would work for Jiraiya, so we'll put it in the maybe category for now. Lastly, we have Orochimaru's Hydra transformation, which is where he turns into a giant multi-headed snake. The snake is larger and more powerful than Manda. I'm not sure if Jiraiya summoning a swamp here would be enough to significantly slow down the Hydra. Ma and Pa could use one of their frog songs to make one of the heads become disoriented though. They did this against one of Pain's summonings and it worked pretty well. Gamabunta and Jiraiya can also use fire and oil to suppress the Hydra, and Gamabunta can use water bullets powerful enough to cancel out the One-Tail's wind attacks. Jiraiya could also summon more toads, but I think at this point in the battle, he'd be running out of sage energy if he did that. With some preparation, Ma and Pa could sing their genjutsu song, and I don't think Orochimaru could counter it in this form. Jiraiya and Gamabunta could certainly stall long enough for Ma and Pa to sing their genjutsu song. This song would paralyze the Hydra, and I believe Jiraiya would capitalize by killing Orochimaru. So overall, Jiraiya would win in Taijutsu, his massive Rasengan would kill Orochimaru, and he could defeat Manda. And he most likely could defeat Orochimaru's Hydra transformation. Orochimaru, on the other hand, can only hope to defeat him with the Hydra technique, which I think could happen if the auditory genjutsu doesn't work. I think it would work though, so we'll give Jiraiya the win if he has prep time. People love to bring up Edo Tensei when it comes to Orochimaru, but Orochimaru can't use Edo Tensei in this state. This is because Hiruzen sealed that ability away with the Reaper Death Seal. If Jiraiya were to fight War Arc Orochimaru, he'd lose because Orochimaru could reanimate Tobirama, Hiruzen, and Minato. He couldn't use Hashirama though because he's not powerful enough to control him. Anyway, in conclusion, Jiraiya could only beat Orochimaru if he's in Sage Mode, which would require a little prep time. In both rounds, they definitely beat each other with very high difficulty. They're both Sannin after all, and very close in terms of strength. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future, and comment something if you have something to say. Thank you all for watching, and I guess I'll see you all next time.